What up, Bugles? I want to welcome you to this video and to our Comics Bugle channel, your go-to spot for everything omnibus and oversized. It feels like past few weeks belongs to one and only Brian Michael Bendis. 3 books in less than a month. That's truly something. And today we have here Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus. The cover price is 125 USD and the book has 1,128 pages. It collects a massive chunk of material. I'm talking about 36 Uncanny X-Men issues, including Landmark issue 600, the entire Battle of the Atom crossover, and both Uncanny and all new annuals from 2014. This omnibus isn't just another chapter in mutant history. It's practically a manifesto for a new era of X-Men storytelling. I went with the direct market cover by fantastic Ed McGuiness, which goes all out with dynamic energy featuring Wolverine, Jane Grey, Storm, and Cyclops charging into action as if the fate of mutant kind depends on what happens on the next page. The color explode off the surface, giving the that blockbuster big even vibe Marvel readers immediately associate with epic storytelling. It's loud, dramatic, and proudly superheroic. Exactly what you expect when you think of the Uncanny X-Men. Here we have a standard cover by Chris Bachalo. It instantly grabs your attention with its bold lineup of Cyclops, Magic, and the rest of the rebellious mutant faction staring at it down like they're ready to reshape the future of the X-Men. It feels edgy, almost confrontational, and perfectly matches the darker, more divided era Bendis was exploring in his run. This is the kind of cover that tells you right away, this isn't your classic Xavier Schools anymore. This is a revolution. The back cover continues the full wraparound artwork that starts on the front, flows seamlessly across the spine, and finish in one big striking mural on the reverse. The standard edition features completely different back cover art, making this DM variant stands out even more for collectors. The text portion on the back cover lays out the premise of the Bendis Uncanny X-Men run, highlighting with a bold tagline, "Join the Revolution," which is war cry of Cyclops Mutants team in the aftermath of the Phoenix event. It also provides a full breakdown of the omnibus contents, giving readers a clear snapshot of exactly which issues and creators are included. The spine carries the same wraparound illustration, acting as the connection bridge between the front and the back, and keeping the entire image perfectly aligned. The standard edition also uses a different, more clean spine design, so the DM version gives you a unique, unified piece of art across all sides. The boards on this omnibus look fantastic, wrapping the entire book in a striking piece of artwork that feels more like a full poster than simply packaging. They immediately set a tone of unrest and energy, mutants, protest, and tension, perfectly matching the themes inside. It's the kind of design that makes you want to display the book without its jazz jacket, because it's simply too good to hide. Opening the book, we are greeted by a mostly red, white, and black opening page featuring the artwork of Cyclops' Uncanny team. That's followed by a credit table of content level page listing all the talented creators who work on these stories with all informations about every chapter in this book. And after that, we jump straight to the stories itself. When I pick up the Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus, I'm immediately reminded of how strange, bold, and transitional this era of the X-Men truly is. The first thing that hits me is how different this feels from the classic idea of what the Uncanny X-Men traditionally are. This isn't a story about acceptance, or heroism, or protecting a world that hates and fears you. It's about what happens when the X-Men finally get tired of playing by rules written by people who will never accept mutants anyway. This run begins in the aftermath of Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, as Scott Summers is no longer the stoic, idealistic boy who once believed in Xavier's peaceful dream. He's something else entirely. He's become the revolutionary Cyclops, a leader operating from the shadows, constantly hunted, driven by guilt, trauma, and conviction. And that's what I love most about this run. It doesn't try to hide from Cyclops' mistakes, it embraces them. Bendis digs deep into Cyclops' psyche, showing us a man who truly believes he's doing the right thing, even when everyone around him thinks he's spiraling into delusion. It's fascinating how Bendis frames Scott not as a villain or a hero, but as a someone burdened by responsibility. His decisions don't feel evil, they feel necessary. He sees a future where mutants either take control of their destiny or die waiting for acceptance. That's a genuinely compelling psychological divide. This omnibus gives us a Cyclops who isn't trying to fit into society anymore. He's building a new one. And I know this might surprise some people, but for me, Uncanny is the better reading experience. All New may have the fun time displacement hook, but Uncanny has the ideological meat. It feels like I'm watching the future of mutant kind being forced into existence by people who no longer care about permission. One of the biggest themes Ben displays with here is trust. Trust between leaders and followers, teachers and students, friends and enemies. These students at Cyclops School aren't the next class of superhero trained to politely coexist with the humans. They are soldiers being shaped for survival. Some of them don't even know if they believe in Scott. They just know the world outside hates them and he's the only one offering purpose. Bendis uses this dynamic like gasoline waiting for a spark, and the spark becomes Battle of the Atom. Now, Battle of the Atom is a crossover that gets a lot of mixed reactions, but personally, within the context of the omnibus, it lands perfectly. It builds on the chaos caused by the time displacing original X-Men and adds another twist by bringing future versions of the characters back in the time to warn everyone that meddling with the timeline can destroy everything. It's messy, emotional, and full of those classic Bendis dialogue fireworks where characters argues, interrupt each other, and never quite finish sentences because they are too emotionally wired to speak like normal humans. But that's exactly what makes Bendis so addictive for me. He doesn't write speeches, he writes emotional collisions. He writes conversations like gunfights. And speaking of Bendis' dialogue, it's impossible not to mention how signature his voice is throughout this omnibus. Some people joke that when Bendis writes, every character sounds slightly like Bendis. But here, it works because these mutants are fractured, paranoid, desperate, and constantly trying to figure out their place. Their words are quick, sharp, tense, and often hilarious. The humor never undercuts the stakes, it just gives it a breath before the next emotional punch lands. The art throughout this omnibus is another defining part of the experience, and it's fascinating how the different illustrators help reinforce the changing identity of the team. Chris Bachalo's work is probably the most iconic for this run. He brings a strange, gritty surrealism that feels almost intentionally chaotic. His pages are dense, detailed, and sometimes overwhelming, but that's the point. These mutants aren't living in a clean superhero world. They are living in the ashes of Xavier's broken dream. Bacalo's art feels like a disorder incarnate, and when Cyclops' new team appears on the page, cloaked in black costumes and unwavering resolve, the tension sinks. Fraser Irving's contribution pushed things even further into experimental territory. His ethereal style turns psychic space and magical sequences into haunting, dreamlike visions. Suddenly, the book feels not like a superhero comics at all, but like a psychological horror story built around identity, mutation, and legacy. It's stunning. Even if some readers prefer a more traditional superhero aesthetics, Irving's pages are unforgettable. They force you to stop skimming and actually absorb what are you seeing. And honestly, isn't that what X-Men stories should do? Make you reflect on evolution, power, and the cost of being different? One aspect of this omnibus that often goes underappreciated is how it handles the legacy of Xavier. Bendis isn't afraid to peel away the myth and expose the contradictions in his dream. The relation in issue 600, the emotional confrontation, the raw disappointment, it all hits harder because the characters aren't just grieving a man, they are grieving their belief system. The death of Xavier isn't just a plot point, it's the dismantling of an identity, and that's exactly why Uncanny X-Men under Bendis feels like an era of transition rather than a simple storyline. It's the demolition stage before Jonathan Hickman's eventually rebuild mutant kind in House of X. Now it's time for some behind the scenes drama. Bendis reportedly clashed with the editorial during this period, especially near the end, and that's why issue 600 was delayed for months. There were rumors of disagreements over the direction of Cyclops, the inhuman push for Marvel, and how the mutant metaphor should evolve. Whether or not all of it's true, you can feel the tension bleeding into the story. Characters constantly question leadership. The world pressures mutants to evolve or disappear. Even the structure of the omnibus feels like a tug of war between what Marvel wanted and what Bendis was determined to say. And that brings me to something I genuinely appreciate about this book. It's not clean, it's not polished, it doesn't try to reassure me, it challenges me. It's an X-Men story for a world that no longer believes in tidy resolutions. It asks what happened when Oprah's people finally stop trying to be palatable. It asks what happens when revolution replaces hope as the default mindset. And maybe that's why I prefer this over all the all-new X-Men Omnibus. All New is a brilliant experiment. Uncanny is a thesis on what happens after hope dies. The relationship between these two omnibuses is interesting though, because they are not competing narratives. They are parallel nervous systems feeding the same body. All New externalize identity through time displacement. Uncanny internalize it through ideological conflict. And when those perspectives collide, you get Battle of the Atom, which is the moment the entire mutant line looks in the mirror and sees every possible version of itself staring back, disappointed. When I think about what this omnibus gives me as a reader, it's not just entertainment, it's context, it's weight, it's the uncomfortable realization that evolution doesn't ask for permission. Cyclops became the embodiment of that truth. He stops being the student. He stops being the soldier. He becomes the catalyst. Whether you think he's a hero or a terrorist, Bendis forces you to understand him. And once you understand him, even if you don't agree with him, you can't ignore him. And yes, I will proudly say it again. I prefer this series to all new X-Men. For me, Uncanny is the one that sticks. It's messy, it's defiant, and it leaves scorch marks on the franchise in a way only Bendis could. The extra section in this omnibus is generous, giving us over 50 pages of bonus material to dig into. The biggest portion is a full cover gallery, letting you appreciate the artwork without any logos or trade dresses in the way. We also get a proper behind the scenes look at the creative process, including character sketches, early design concepts, and layout draft for panels and pages. It's a great peek into how the visual identity of this run came together. And to wrap it all, there's a farewell note from Brian Michael Bendis himself. And that's all. So, it's Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus worth it? Absolutely. If you are drawn to the mutant politics, fractured ideologies, and character-driven chaos wrapped in a slick modern storytelling, this book is just for you. If Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus catch your attention, you can order your own copy in our e-shop, comicsbugle.com. Your friendly neighborhood comic book shop in Europe. Accept a great catalog of collected, deluxe, and absolute editions, epic collections, and omnibuses. We guarantee you eco-friendly Hulkproof packaging, free shipping in whole EU, an option to pre-order your comic book now and pay for it later. You can also split full price to 4 separate payments because we know how expensive these books can be. So check it out, comicsbugle.com. You can find that link below this video. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button so we don't miss out any further videos. In our comment section, let us know what books or topics would you like to see in our videos. And see ya, Bugles!